Good evening. We're so glad that you've taken the time to join us today. This is the first in a series of 3 live presentations that are designed to help you prepare for your time at Walla Walla University. We know that God has great plans for you, and so the faculty and staff here at WWU, we want to do everything that we can to help you feel as prepared as you can be as you enter into university life. My name is Andrew Perrin. I'm one of the recruiters here at Walla Walla University, and today our presentation is going to take you through the process of financial clearance. Now, if you would like to complete your financial clearance while we are going through this presentation tonight, go ahead and open up another window within your internet browser and you can follow along this evening. At any time, if you have any questions or if you have any concerns or things that you would like clarification to as you're going through and listening to the presentation this evening, go ahead and type that into the chat box. And at the end of the presentation, we'll address each of those individually. Also, we're going to be showing some slides, and during those slides, you'll have information given up on them, phone numbers, other written text, and if you'd like access to those for future reference, you can download these slides using the links on the panel on the right side of your screen. We're fortunate this evening to have 2 individuals lend their expertise to this conversation. Joining us are Doug Taylor, coming from the Office of Student Financial Services, and Melissa Ray, our Associate Director for Recruitment. All right, we're going to begin the presentation. So Doug, I'm going to hand the time off to you.
First things first, before we jump into the process, let me talk about what financial clearance is. Financial clearance is a process that all Walla Walla University students go through every quarter. This process makes sure that students have completed the financial items that just have to happen before the quarter begins. It verifies that a down payment has been made and necessary financial aid forms have been completed. This process opens several weeks before the start of a new quarter, so you do have plenty of time to complete it. And right now the process is open for fall quarter. So, like Trevor mentioned, you're welcome to go through the process with us and get it finished tonight. So go ahead, open another window or pull it up on a tablet or phone and follow along with us. To start, go to myWWU.wallawalla.edu and sign in.
And don't worry, this is not a difficult process. Your first time through it takes a little longer because you have more forms to complete and permissions to agree to. But after that, it's about a 90-second process once a down payment has been made. We'll be going slow and covering everything in great detail tonight, but it's really a very simple process and you'll get the hang of it.
That's right. While it's not difficult, your first time is slightly more complicated because there are several one-time permissions that it's going to be asking you about. It feels like there's just a lot of steps to look at, but keep in mind that during this presentation, we're going to be looking at every possible scenario. Most students won't see all of the steps that we cover because your financial clearance process is customized to your unique situation. Things will look different based on the answers you give, your financial aid, whether you're an undergraduate student or working on an associate's or bachelor's degree, or maybe you're a graduate student that's working on a master's degree.
And for any parents who are attending today, be aware that the screens you're seeing are asking your student questions, not you. So when we say you, we're referring to the student. Your student is now the one in charge, and you're there to assist them, so it's a team effort.
Because financial clearance is vital to many other processes on campus, there is a very strict deadline. Every quarter, the deadline is 4 p.m. on the Wednesday prior to classes starting. If you don't have your financial clearance by that date, you will be dropped from the classes you're signed up for. You will have the opportunity to re-sign up for classes once your financial clearance has been completed. But during that time, it's possible that someone from a wait list will have taken your spot. So it's very important to complete your financial clearance on time.
So first things first, go to myWWU.wallawalla.edu to get started.
Yes, go to myWWU and then sign in with your Walla Walla University credentials. So your username is usually your first name dot last name. And if you're having trouble logging in, you can contact customer support at 509-527-2317, and they'll be able to help you reset your password. Once you're logged in, choose the Financial Clearance direct link at the top right of the page. And you can also get to the same place through the High Point portal, which is in your Student App Center list farther down on the page. Next, you're going to click the Start Financial Clearance option. Usually there's only one term open at a time that's open and available for you to choose from, so that makes that step easy, but you're choosing fall quarter. The choices available here will be based on your academic program. For example, only the graduate students can see campuses in Montana, only the nursing students can see a choice for the Portland campus. In College Place, there could be a residence hall or one of the university-owned houses or apartments, or maybe you're living in non-university owned housing. If you said that you were in either a residence hall or university-owned houses or apartments, next you're going to need to get specific as to which one you're going to be living in. If you're living off campus, you're going to need to supply your off-campus address. If the computer tells you that the address you supplied is invalid, that means you're going to need to verify that address and then enter a correct address. On the next screen, you need to select if you're going to be living alone or sharing the rent with another student. Most of our residence hall rooms, as well as our apartments, are designed for dual occupancy, so the rent gets split between the two renters. But if somebody is living alone in a dual occupancy unit, they're going to have to pay a surcharge in the residence hall, or they'll pay full rent in one of the apartments. If you're married and your spouse is not attending the university, choose yes, because you're going to be responsible for the full rent. If a student is not going to be living in a residence hall, is not yet 22, is not a senior, is not married, well, then their request for living off campus needs to be reviewed and approved. And it's the Office of Village Housing that makes the approvals, and their phone number's on the screen, 509-527-2539. If the student has already been approved, you're not going to see this screen. Even if you're going to be living with your parents, you need to go through this step. Next up, you're going to choose your meal plan, and you can choose from one of 6 meal plans. The default meal plan is the Gold Flex meal plan. Flex dollars can be used for additional meals or for purchases in the Student Association Center. If the student is living in the residence hall, they are required to have a meal plan, but students who are not living in the residence halls can choose a meal plan if they want, or they can choose no meal plan. Sodexo, which runs the university cafeteria, they have a great history of meeting most students' dietary restrictions. Any exceptions to the meal plan requirements are handled by the Disability Support Services Office. However, the likelihood of an exception being granted is extremely rare, especially if Sodexo is able to meet the student's needs.
Now, don't worry too much about this choice now. You can change your meal plan up through the 10th day of the quarter.
The next screen is going to ask about your credit hours, and that's where you'll enter the number of credit hours that you're going to be taking fall quarter. For an undergraduate student, if you're going to be full-time, you can put in any number between 12 and 16. That's all the same price. Graduate students, you're charged based on the number of credits that you take, but it's not going to let you put in a smaller number than what you're currently registered for.
I want to point out that the plus button you'll see on some of the next screens is going to give you some more information about that step. On the screen right now, you'll see a minus button. That's because we've already clicked the plus button to display the additional information.
Okay, now you're asked to estimate what you'll be spending on textbooks. If you're planning to buy your books somewhere other than the university bookstore, go ahead and put a 0 here. Otherwise, enter your best guess or just leave the default amount. The default amount, though, does tend to be low. Just to warn you there. Most students do spend more than that amount on books. Next up, it talks about the Express. The university has a Shell station that we own here on campus, and it also has a mini mart and a snack area. So students can use their ID card and purchase up to $80 per month. There's no minimum, and you're only charged for just what you use. So first quarter, I recommend you put in $160. So that's 4 months at $40, so just figuring half of your allowable charging. And then in future quarters, you can put in an amount that covers what you've previously been spending. Graduate students in Montana, Portland nursing students, you're probably going to enter as 0 unless you plan on visiting the College Place campus and plan on using your charge privileges. And by the way, the cafeteria and the Express are not connected. So the Express is not part of your meal plan. You cannot use your flex dollars from Sodexo down at the Express. Next, it's going to talk about miscellaneous charges, and those can be things like club dues, campus events, maybe you go above your estimate for the Express or the bookstore. This number is just an estimate. You will only be charged on what you actually spend. The default amount, that's probably a good one for most undergraduate students. Most of the graduate students will just enter as 0 here. Next, we're going to talk about parent and sponsor permissions. As a general rule, federal law restricts Walla Walla University from giving any information to anyone other than the student except with the student's permission. And so here's where the student gives their permission. So for each of the name that's listed, you want to choose whether they should be mailed a paper statement, whether they have permission to talk about their finances with Walla Walla University, and whether you want them to receive emails typically regarding finances, just reminders there. It can be reminders about completing financial clearance or a payment due. Now, these different choices mean that you can set it up for other people like grandparents or trust administrators to get statements, or to be able to talk to the university about your finances, but maybe grandma doesn't need to get emails reminding you to do your financial clearance. If someone is not listed there, you can add them by clicking that add button at the bottom of the screen. But if they're not listed when you click the add button, you're going to need to contact our office for us to get them into the system and link them to you. And then you'll go back to the permission screen on myWWU and then grant them the permissions. And you can always change your mind later about the permissions that you give us today. You have access to that in myWWU to make the changes. And by the way, parents, you cannot call Walla Walla University and change the permissions. Only the student can change the permissions. That's federal law. The student maintains control over who we share information with. Okay, now you, the student, you get to choose how we're going to communicate about finances with you. Some students like to get paper copies of their monthly financial statement that shows their transactions. Other students just prefer to look at those things online. If you're not going to be looking at the paper statement, we'd love for you to go green with us and choose the online option. Next up is a permission page for Walla Walla University to send automated voice or text messages to cell phones. We like to remind students of deadlines or other important information. Now, if you've already given us permission, then we don't ask again. And we do use this permission very carefully. We don't use it for routine announcements. So some kind of things we would use it for is perhaps your classes have been flagged for dropping because you haven't completed financial clearance. We like to give you a warning.
Now, don't forget that you can be asking questions as we move through this process. We'll be sure to take time to answer them at the end of the presentation, so just use the chat box at the bottom of your screen.
The next few slides talk about Title IV, and Title IV refers to most forms of federal financial aid, such as a Pell or an SEOG grant or the direct loans. So if a student is getting Title IV aid, and if their Title IV aid exceeds their on-campus costs, then we need to know how you want us to handle your excess. Undergraduate students, you rarely have excess Title IV aid unless your parents are taking out a Parent Plus loan. However, for graduate students, this is quite common for you to have excess aid. So the first permission question it's asking you about is whether you want to use any of those excess funds to pay a prior bill. The government will not let us use excess funds from fall quarter to pay a bill from the prior year unless the student gives us permission, and then even then we're limited to using only $200 of the Title IV excess. In my opinion, this permission is a no-brainer. You're going to have to pay the back bill anyway, so just make it easier on yourself and say yes. The next permission question asks, when do you want your excess funds? So if you have excess funds, do you want us to send it as soon as it's available, or do you want it and want us to just hold on to it and only send it when you tell us to send it? So you have control over this. Some students prefer to take their excess funds over the quarter rather than all at once. So it's your choice on what works best for you. But if you ask for it to be sent as soon as it's available, then about the third week of the quarter, we'll be sending out those excess funds to BankMobile for them to disperse to you. And we'll talk more about BankMobile in just a moment. But if you ask us to hold the funds, we're going to then wait until you complete an online request form.
So basically it's asking, do you want your excess financial aid all at once, as soon as it's available, or do you want us to hold on to the money until you request it from us?
That's correct. The third permission question on Title IV asks about what charges do you want to use those excess funds to cover. So Title IV funds always cover tuition and fees, room, cafeteria, books, but with your permission, it can also cover club dues, express charges, other campus charges. You're going to have to pay those charges anyway, so again, make it easy on yourself and say yes. And if at any time you want to change the answers to these questions, just contact our office and we can walk you through the steps for changing the answers. If you're getting aid from Washington State, such as a Washington State Need Grant or a Washington State College-Bound Scholarship, we need your permission to put those funds towards your campus expenses. If you say no, this usually increases your down payment, so I recommend a yes answer here. I mentioned earlier BankMobile. BankMobile is the financial institution we use to disperse funds to students. So just before classes start, most students are going to receive a bright green envelope from BankMobile. It contains an activation link. This is not junk mail, and so please don't throw this away. So you're going to use that activation link to choose your disbursement method. You've got three options. You can choose to have a paper check sent to you. You can choose to have the money deposited into a bank account that you already have, or you can open a BankMobile Vibe checking account. And we recommend that second option, depositing funds into a bank account that you already have. If you do choose to open a BankMobile Vibe checking account, be sure you understand there may be fees involved, and you want to make sure that you understand what those fees are. If you work on campus, your first paycheck gets credited directly to your student account. And that's because the first payroll cycle when you work, it sends a test message to your bank to make sure your bank information is correct. And then as long as that's correct, then your following paychecks will be directly deposited into your bank account. But that very first paycheck gets applied to your student account. If you want those funds, you need to have set up your BankMobile disbursement method in order for us to send those payments. So you may need a BankMobile even if you're not working on campus. A lot of graduate students are getting their excess financial aid. That's how they tell BankMobile to disperse their excess funds with that link that you get sent. Club officers often get reimbursed for expenses that they've spent on club events. Sometimes your account gets overpaid, and so there's excess funds that need to be refunded. So we strongly encourage you to set up your BankMobile disbursement preference. Once a year, all students need to agree to abide by the Walla Walla University Student Handbook. And this is available on the university's website at WallaWalla.edu/handbook. Also, once a year, all students need to acknowledge that they know that health insurance is required. The university does not offer health insurance for purchase, but we do list some resources on our insurance webpage. Based on the answers that you gave us on the previous questions, you can now see your estimated expenses and your payments. If you want to see more detail, you can click on those plus buttons and just drill down there. A lot of your to-do items got taken care of while you were walking through the financial clearance process already. However, there may be some that you're still going to need to take care of, and those are going to be listed on this screen. You cannot go any further with financial clearance until these are taken care of. Most of these involve signing documents. So you're going to go back into your Student Center, choose the Student Center Classic from the myWWU homepage, and then choose Sign Documents. If any of the answers caused a warning or an error, those get displayed on the next screen. So just as an example, let's say you're not living in a residence hall, but you chose a meal plan. Well, you're going to get a warning message. It's not a problem. We're just wanting to make sure that that's what you're intending to do. We don't want to charge you for a meal plan if you really did not intend to sign up for it. If you have a down payment, now is the time to pay it. Since you're already logged into myWWU at the beginning of this process, you should not have to log in again. But if for some reason you got to this screen by using a direct link from outside the financial clearance process, you will have to log in. And you can use the same username and password that you use everywhere else in the Walla Walla University ecosystem. And this screen is going to ask you for your payment information. You can pay with a credit card, a debit card, or electronic check. It's pretty self-explanatory.
One thing students and parents might want to be aware of is that you will be charged a 1.75% convenience fee to process credit card payments. There's no fee if you use debit cards or valid electronic checks.
And what Melissa means by a valid electronic check is there is a fee for e-checks if there are insufficient funds or if the bank account information is not correct or we cannot process the check. There is a fee for reprocess there. On the payment system, students can set up other authorized users, such as their parents. And then the parent has their own login to make payments. The parent then could store their own bank information. Authorized users can then also see account transactions. They can also see that student's electronic statements. Maybe there's somebody else like a grandparent that wants to make a payment on the account. They can do that without being an authorized user. What they do need to know is the student's last name and the student's 7-digit university ID number, and then that allows them to make a payment on your account. But they cannot see any of your account transactions. They cannot see your statements. They can't see your account balance. And so this method would not allow them to save their bank account information for future payments since they're not an authorized user. Next up is a screen that has a series of 3 statements. So you need to read each of those statements and then click the box agreeing to each statement in order to continue. Next up is what we call bouncing bin. And bouncing bin indicates that your financial clearance is done and your classes are protected from being dropped on the financial clearance deadline date. For some students, like graduate students and others with projected credit, you might see 1 or 2 more screens. The first one's going to be asking about when do you want money. So first it's going to ask if you want an emergency draw. So it will let you have half of your projected credit up to $500 on the first day of classes. And for those of you who asked us to hold money, you can also submit a request for some of your additional money to be sent when it's ready. Of course, if you told us before to send it as soon as possible, you're not going to see this screen because we'll be sending it as soon as the money is available. But you can get that emergency draw of up to $500. And that's it for financial clearance. You'll be going through this process every quarter, but next quarter it's going to be about 90-second process, except for making the down payment.
All right. Thank you, Doug and Melissa. That was a lot of material to go through, and I'm thankful for you taking the time to share your expertise this evening. Just a really quick reminder, the deadline for financial clearance is the Wednesday before the start of classes each quarter. If you want to rewatch this presentation to review anything, recording will be available at WallaWalla.edu/workshops. That's WallaWalla.edu/workshops. If you have any questions or anything you'd like Doug to clarify right now, go ahead and submit that through the chat box. We have a few questions coming in, and we're going to jump to the first one here. Doug, this is the first question. It says, I have several documents to sign in my to-do list. Do I need to wait until I'm on campus to do those?
No, all of our documents can be signed electronically, including the loan promissory notes. So you should be able to sign those anywhere you have internet connection. By the way, parents, you may have handled a lot of things for your students in the past, but it is a federal crime for you to sign your students' loan promissory notes for them, or in that matter, to sign any of their loan documents. So your student now, they're becoming an adult. They've got to take on some adult responsibilities, and one of those responsibilities is to sign their own paperwork.
All right, perfect. Next question. When can we finish our financial clearance?
Pretty much as soon as you take care of those to-do items that were listed in the financial clearance page, you can make your down payment and then finish financial clearance. So you can do it today. I was looking online earlier today, and we've got several dozen that have already completed their financial clearance, including some freshmen.
All right, Doug, we have a few questions here involving our meal plan. One of them is, if you choose a silver meal plan at the beginning, but it turns out that you needed the platinum plan, is there a way to level up or just add a certain amount extra?
During the first 2 weeks of the quarter, you're allowed to change your meal plan. So if you chose initially the silver plan and wanted to upgrade to the platinum, that's fine. Or chose platinum, wanted to downgrade to gold or silver, that's fine. But after the end of the 2 weeks, you are locked into that meal plan. And so if you're eating more than the meals that you have in your meal plan, you'll just be charged extra for those additional meals. Or if you choose a meal plan that has the flex dollars, those flex dollars can be used to be paying additional meals as well.
All right. Another question here we have is, how much extra does it cost for units over the 12 to 16 per quarter? And also, are lesser hours prorated? Say I signed up for 11 hours instead of 12.
So the first 11 credits, 1 through 11, are $755 per credit. The 12 through 16 are all the same price, and then any credits above 16 are $600 each. Now, I want to caution you on taking less than 12 credits, though, because a lot of grants and scholarships, especially those from Walla Walla University, are based on you taking at least 12 credits. So if you take less than 12, your grants and scholarships could be prorated. Also, if you're wanting to get through college in 4 years, you need to be averaging 16 credits per quarter in order to complete that in 4 years without summer quarters in there.
All right. We have another question here. It says, if for taking loans, what financial institution is preferred with a good past record?
For the loans that we offer, those are direct loans. You're borrowing the money from the federal government. There's also some students have been awarded institutional loans where you're borrowing from Walla Walla University. So you don't have to specify a financial institution when you're taking out a direct loan or an institutional loan. If you're looking at private loans, we do have on our loan website, and I believe that's loans.WallaWalla.edu. I believe we have a list of lenders that we have worked with. We try not to be judging which ones are better than the others. You'll need to work with them individually. Be sure you're comparing interest rates as you look at the different lenders, and make sure that you've taken out the maximum direct loans before you start looking at the private loans.
All right. Another question here that we have, is there a way to sign up for online monthly payments for the quarter's out-of-pocket amount?
For students who are not international, if they're from Canada or the US, you're automatically on a monthly payment plan. Our international students do have to pay for the quarter's expenses all at the beginning of the quarter, but for Canadian residents, US residents, it's automatically for a monthly payment plan.
All right. We have another question here we'll move to, saying, I have loan promissory notes, but am hoping to have the money paid without taking out loans. Is it necessary for me to sign them anyways?
You need to make a decision if you want to do financial clearance with or without the loans. And so if you want to do financial clearance and use those dollar amounts for your clearance, you're going to have to do the paperwork. If you're pretty sure you're going to have the money in time for the financial clearance deadline, then you can call the loan office or email the loan office. The email address is student.loans@WallaWalla.edu. And just let us know that you want to cancel your loans. We'll take them out of your payment plan. And of course, your down payment then increases because you won't have the loans helping to reduce your payments. But that's always an option. But you do have to make the choice. With direct loans and with our institutional loans, they're extremely flexible. So if you cancel the loans and you're making payments, but then mid-year you decide you really did need some or all of the loans, we can reinstate those. Or if you start out the year taking out the loans, and then mid through the year you find you do have enough money, you can go back and cancel those. One caution though, the federal government does charge a fee when we disperse the loan, and it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1% loan fee. So there would be a cost if we've dispersed the funds and then we have to return those to the federal government.
All right. It looks like we've reached the end of our questions here.
Was there another question about meal plans earlier?
Oh, we wrapped them up, I think, and we did both of them together.
About asking what if you don't use all your meal plan. If you right there, if you choose a bigger meal plan but don't use it all, will you get a refund for the unused funds? And the answer is no. It's use it or lose it. You get so many meals per week, and those meals do not carry over to the next week. So if you chose a 15 meal plan and only ate 14 meals one week, you still only get 15 meals the next week. Flex dollars are for the entire quarter, but the meals are just per week. And if you take a friend to a meal that counts as a guest, you're allowed a couple of guest meals per quarter. And so it doesn't count as one of your, let's say, 15 meals if that was the meal plan that you had chosen.
All right, we have another question here. It says, we have received scholarship loans from the university. Where can I get info regarding other loans before I take out a private loan?
Okay, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to with a scholarship loan, because they're either scholarships or they're loans and they're not together. Scholarships don't have to be paid back, but if you've received an award from Walla Walla University and it says loan, then we'll be working with you to do all the paperwork. The promissory note will be in your to-do list to sign. Any of the other requirements, such as your loan reference form, your entrance counseling, all that will be in your to-do list to sign. And so if you have not already applied for financial aid, you do have to be a U.S. resident, so either a citizen or a green card, basically, in order to get the federal direct loans.
All right, another question here regarding health insurance. Is Kaiser acceptable for health insurance at Walla Walla? And I think I can help with this one.
Good.
At Walla Walla University, we do require that students have proof of insurance when they enroll with us at WWU, when they come here for Jumpstart Week, or if they're a returning student just at the beginning of that term. We do not have in-house insurance here, so we discontinued that a few years ago. So you just need to have proof of insurance for your student. We network in our university clinic. We contract with a local hospital here in Walla Walla Valley, and it's Providence Medical Center, Providence St. Mary Medical Center here in Walla Walla. And so you can look them up online and also see that way if your insurance would work with Providence. But also we have a short link on our website where you can go and get more information on where to obtain insurance if perhaps you need to look at alternative insurance outside of your plan. And that web link is WallaWalla.edu/insurance. WallaWalla.edu/insurance. And that's a great resource for you as you're shopping around if that is what you're in the market for.
And I want to add, with Kaiser being a particular medical plan, you want to talk to Kaiser, or if you have some other insurance for the other families listening today, talk to them and make sure they have preferred providers that are within 25 miles of Walla Walla. So you don't want to get here and find out that you have no providers for your insurance or your medical plan, that it's local.
All right. Another question here. Can book fees be covered by financial aid?
Certainly, if your financial aid exceeds the cost of tuition, room, cafeteria, then yes, you can be using that for books. Basically, your payment plans are going to be your campus costs, which would be then your tuition and fees, room and cafeteria if you're living in the residence hall, books if you charge them at the bookstore, and then we subtract the financial aid. Whatever's left gets divided into 3 equal payments. And so, again, it's depending on whether you have enough financial aid that's covering all those, or whether you're going to be having to make payments to cover those.
All right. Another question here. Back to insurance. Is proof of insurance meaning their health card, like a Kaiser health card with their name on it? That is proof, right? That is all they need to bring to show proof.
Actually, it's a little less than that. When you did financial clearance, one of the questions we talked about is a statement there that I understand I am required to have health insurance. And so you have to be able to honestly click that and say, yes, I have a valid insurance. We do not ask you to show us the insurance card, the proof. Now, of course, if you go to a healthcare provider, they're going to require to see that and then bill accordingly.
Yeah, so pretty much on your honor system.
Absolutely.
Here when you get here on campus. Another question regarding meal plans. Does the meal plan include weekends?
Yes. There are 19 meals served during the week. So for Monday through Friday, there's 3 meals per day. And then on Saturday and Sunday, there are 2 meals per day. So a total of 19 meals per week. That's why the Platinum plan only goes up to 19 meals. And so it's whatever meals you have in your plan, they do include. You can choose as one of your options to use one of those meals on the weekends.
All right. Any last questions we have this evening before we wrap up?
While we're waiting for other questions, since there's been a lot of talk about meal plans, cafeteria is always a lightning rod for complaints. And Walla Walla University, surprisingly, has very little complaints with regard to the food. There are a lot of options available. They have gluten-free options. They have vegan options.
And just the variety of food selection and choices from breakfast through dinner is pretty incredible, more so than when I was a student here back in 2000.
The only complaint I've heard is students say, well, they're on kind of like a meal rotation. So every 2 or 3 weeks, they seem to rotate through the same meals again.
Right.
And my response to the student is, at my house, we're on a 1-week rotation. So if you're getting a 3-week rotation, count your blessings.
Well, if you encounter any more questions as you're going through, feel free to email us here, and I'll give you an email in just a moment. But we're so glad that you spent some time here. Oh, we got another question. How do we get the Flex plan?
When you sign up for the meal plan, there are 3 levels, the gold, silver, and platinum. And then within within each level, one of them has flex dollars, one of them does not have flex dollars. So there's a total of 6 options there. So you just choose the meal plan that gives you the number of meals and the amount of flex dollars that you think would be appropriate. So we start out people at the Gold Flex meal plan. It's kind of in the middle there. And then what we recommend is, try it the first 2 weeks, but before the end of the 2 weeks, reevaluate it, see how many meals you're actually going through. And then you can adjust it, like I said, before the end of the second week, and up or down, depending on your own eating habits.
Right. Doug, this isn't a question that came in, but for someone that may be wanting clarification, can you explain how exactly the flex dollars work on top? Because we have platinum plans, gold plans, but how does that flex work for anybody else that's wondering?
Excellent question. In the basement of the cafeteria building is the Student Association Center. It's also known as the SAC, S-A-C, and they serve, I don't know what kind of food
they do pizzas and burgers, fries, hot dogs, and just
it's
a different
kind of a
deli.
made-to-order type of thing, but it's does not count as a meal. So it's whatever dollars you're spending down there can be used on your flex plan.
That's right.
Or if you've used up all your flex dollars, it can just go onto your student account. Also upstairs in the main cafeteria, let's say you had chosen a 10-meal plan week and you were eating an 11th meal, that could be paid for out of your flex dollars as well. The flex dollars cannot be used outside of that building. So we also have on campus the Express, also for those who've been around a long time, used to be known as the Dairy Express. They have a vegetarian grill there that's open what hours, Andrew?
It's usually 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay. And delicious. I enjoy their veggie burgers, yogis,
Yep.
the haystacks.
Burritos. Yep. All right. We have another question here. What times of the days are meals offered? How structured are the time frames? And, the cafeteria has a fairly open time frame. It's pretty good for students on a variety of schedules here at the university, whether in classes or labs. They open up at 7 in the morning. And then they for breakfast, and there's usually a changeover between 10 and 11, and they're still remaining open during that time, and they close down after lunch at 2 p.m. So really, on the weekdays, they're open from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., and then they're open again from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. For supper. And then during the weekends, we're looking at 10:30 to 2 p.m., and then again 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And so there are quite a few options, and it's set up so that way we can accommodate all the different schedules that students are going to encounter during their time here at the university.
And if you are hungry between 2 and 5, the SAC is open during that time on the weekdays. And
the
Sunday?
Express, right? Yes, and Sunday.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any last questions we have coming in before we end tonight's presentation?
I'm not seeing any others.
All right. Thank you so much for watching this presentation, taking time out of your day to join us. I hope it was helpful for you and that you feel prepared as you watch this and confident to complete your financial clearance and check that off your to-do list. I want to remind you that we have 2 more presentations coming this month that will be packed with information and other useful knowledge for you. Next week, we will be talking about the residence halls and what it's like for you or your student to live at Walla Walla University. So with us next week, we'll have the Director of Residential Life and Housing. We'll also have a few students here as well, because I think it's important for you to hear the perspective of a student, not just faculty and staff, but sometimes it's nice to hear what it's like from a student's perspective to live at Walla Walla University. So we'll be addressing questions, things like how big the dorm rooms are, what the closets, the rooms in general, how do you find out who your roommate is, and that whole process. As a recruiter, these are questions that I get on a fairly frequent basis that I usually will hand off to the residence hall deans. But this will be a one-stop shop, a great place. And if you have not yet gone through that process of residence halls, I highly recommend that you join us for this workshop this next week. On August 22, we will be sharing a guide to preparing for fall quarter and answering questions like, do we need physicals and immunization records, or how do we get our ID card? Those are good questions that we'll be wrapping up on the following week after that. And then on August 23, we'll share a presentation just for graduate students and the information they'll need to be prepared for fall quarter. So just a reminder that you will want to register for each of these presentations. So if you were at this presentation tonight, that doesn't mean that you're also going to be in the following week. So just make sure that you go and you register for each presentation, and you can do that at WallaWalla.edu/workshops. That's WallaWalla.edu/workshops. Ultimately, we'd love to have your feedback about our presentation tonight. When we sign off, please take a moment to fill out a brief survey. You can find that on our website, WallaWalla.edu/comment. It's there on the screen. And we would really love to know what you thought about as we went through the presentation and how we can make this better for next time. If you think of something that you forgot to ask, you can always give the Student Financial Services Office a call as well. Their phone number, 509-527-2815. That's 509-527-2815. Or you can email them at STUFIN, that stands for Student Finance. It's STUFIN@WallaWalla.edu. Thank you again, Doug and Melissa. Appreciate you having you here. And thank you all to our viewers. We look forward to you being a part of our family this fall quarter. Hope you have a wonderful evening.